seat, but they're not in Tracer yet. So, but we will talk about all those in and out details very deliberately and in detail when you pick up a petition packet.
And these are not showstoppers, these are more nuances.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. And also, when you're filing on Tracer and you're keeping track of your campaign, a lot of candidates find that it's helpful to find somebody to be your treasurer to keep track, because there's deadlines on when you are filing your, whether it is a donation or a gift in kind. Say somebody puts up a sign for you, you're still required to claim that. So Tracer, our Secretary of State website, and also the Colorado Association of School Boards has some great links that help navigate that as well, on how do I make sure I'm filing on time and correctly? How do I make sure that I'm within the limits of what I need to be keeping track of? There's all kinds of little nuances, but it's actually, it's not, don't let it intimidate you. It's easier to navigate once you get the hang of it, but just go to the how-tos and that'll help you get through that as well. And then just to remind everyone, just in case we didn't make it clear, the 2 director district seats that are up for election is just Director District 1 and Director District 3. And then Dr. Shank is currently serving and has 2 more years until she will be eligible to run again. And Mr. Schwartz has 2 more years, and you are termed out in 2 years. Is that correct, sir?
If not sooner.
And Todd Brown has 2 more years before he would have to run for his election seat as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I made that clear in case there was any questions. We are not a director, we are a director district school district. We are not an at-large school district. That means that you have to live within your director district to run. As Ms. Wood stated, everybody in the district is allowed to vote within the Tri-Lakes area of D38 votes for the candidates that are on the ballot. So, what makes a great school board director? Characteristics of successful board members. And I actually put my board members on the spot and asked them to cover these slides on this one, so I don't know who has what.
Oh, did we pick?
Characteristics of a school board member.
That's you.
We should have started with the good part instead of all the bureaucracy.
Good. Nobody tells me anything, or so I say all the time. So there's a lot of work that has to be done by school board members, and if you don't have a desire to serve the community and the community's children, this would probably make you feel like, why? So it's kind of everyone has to have a why for this, because it's a lot. And so, you know, my why was that I care deeply about the future of the country, and our students are literally the future of our country. I won't be here, but they will. And I want to make sure that they've got the best education they can. I also think that doing this is as local as it gets. And I was definitely just moving here helped me understand local politics in a way that I'd never understood it. So working as a member of a team, and probably the most important thing about that is we do not make decisions by ourselves. Every decision we make is a team effort. You know, I have 1 vote, Tiffany has 1 vote, Chris has 1 vote, Ron has 1 vote, Todd, who's not here, has 1 vote. And we vote as a team. And for us as a group, it's really important. This is one of our group norms that I hope stays the same, that we try very hard to understand each other's votes and thoughts, and get to a place where it feels more like a consensus. Every vote does not feel that way, but most of them do, because we understand as a group that we are the community of D38 who's voting as a school board, and we want it to be representative. The third one, willingness to spend the time required to learn and do the homework needed. It's a lot. I've always wanted to be on a school board, and I waited till I was almost retired, and the amount of work made me decide it was a good time to retire because I needed a lot of time. And as Tiffany knows, because she fielded so many of my questions, I was pretty quiet the first year. There's so much to learn, and until you learn enough, it's hard to make good votes. So the willingness to do that is really important, and respect for the members of the community who may or may not feel the way you feel. Really important. It's really, I mean, we are representatives, and we're not just representatives of our own opinions. We're representatives of our community, and being respectful of others' opinions and listening and allowing their opinions to influence yours is really critical.
Thank you, Dr. Schenk. Certainly, we don't have to vote and always be a 5-0 vote. In fact, healthy debate is what leads to really good decisions. And sometimes we vote 4-1, sometimes it's 3-2. Often after deliberation and discussion, we get to a 5-0 vote. We have 2 meetings, which we'll go over in a moment, a month that we're required to be at. There's always extenuating circumstances every now and then, but we're required to be at a work session and at a regular board meeting. The work sessions, we do not vote. We typically voice, and then we find ourselves voting at the regular board meeting. But to Dr. Schenk's point, it is a lot of work, but it's good work.
Yes, it is.
And it is, when you keep your sights set on what we're doing and it's for the kids, it makes the work go well. And there's a saying that many hands make the work easy, and that's where we are. But we don't micromanage. We work as a team, and that's really important in diplomacy and in working as a governance team as well. So, okay. Qualities conducive to success. Mr. Norris, you're up.
I'll take this one. Essential qualities needed for school board success are the very qualities possessed by many who rise to the top of successful organizations. Cream rises to the top, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we need. Vision and ability to see the big picture, and excellent communication and human relation skills. So those are really important. You might have a vision and a big picture in your mind that is different than the other 5 people, which is why you need excellent communication and human relation skill to convince the other 4 board members that your vision and picture is the best, right? Ability to listen to all sides of the story before making an informed decision. This is really one of my favorite ones. I love leaning into Tiffany for historical evidence. She's probably got like a room full of the last 20 years of life on the school board. She collects this stuff for a living, and she's awesome at it. And I say, what happened 6 years ago? And she'll just whip it right out, and she'll know exactly where it's going. Patty, I love leaning into her. She's got an educational background, and I love leaning into her for educational stuff and get her point of view from her experience. Ron has got this really amazing business acumen. So if it's business decisions, money decisions, I love leaning into Ron. He's so helpful and so knowledgeable, and it's great to be able to get all these different points of view in order to make that informed decision. Todd, he is pretty good generally in all subjects. Me, I'm just a boat anchor, so don't come see me for anything. Sound judgment, confidence, ability to disagree agreeably. I think emotional intelligence is probably pretty huge in this capacity, to be able to discuss things out and work things out. And regardless of how passionate you are for your point of view or your decision, you've got to just try and maintain that emotional intelligence to acquiesce or vote a no or vote a yes based on what you think, and not get into a screaming match, right? Emotional intelligence is important, and that's ability to disagree agreeably. A strong sense of fairness and justice and desire to govern, and not be a manager.
You bring humor to the board.
That's probably the most I've talked in the last 2 years that I've been sitting in this chair, honestly.
What's it like to serve as a board member? So part of being on the Board of Education is, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Schwartz, but democracy. The Board of Education is the heartbeat of democracy within our community and across our nation. And so when we're doing our policy governance and when we're preparing to serve as a school board and drinking from that fire hose, you've heard me say that, it really is, there's a learning curve, but once you get going and you get running, and we have graduation coming up, for example, and there's where the joy is as well. But Mr. Schwartz.
So there's lots here, right? But I'd like to add a couple things to what my peers said, because it's so important. One of the things I think we didn't mention that we have a strategic advantage on as a team, thank you, is the way we function. If you read the news, you guys want to make sure I don't miss something, is this the idea? If you read the news and you watch certain shows, you'll see, especially in the last 5 years or so, boards of education have been flashpoints. And I have friends that are running school districts in Arizona and Alaska, for example, and the stuff they go through because the board members are far more concerned with their political agenda that they support than they are the care, feeding, and success of the students that they were elected to care for, that it makes it very, very difficult. In the 6+ years I've been doing this, that's never been an issue. And amongst ourselves, and we don't publish this, we brag about it. And we hold each other accountable for making sure that if it's not in the students' and the community's best interest, that we don't do it. And if we can't prove it is or isn't, then that bases our actions. And that's really important, I think, to lay out, right? Because we're really trying hard to make sure that we always have our eye on the prize. Okay? So I just wanted to put that out there. We're very fortunate, as I'm sure Ms. Wetzstein would tell you, she has peers that don't feel as fortunate.
Absolutely. I was thinking about ending the evening by emphasizing what you just shared. We are so fortunate in our district to have a board that cares about students, cares about staff, prioritizes the good of the district, and they work together, and I think they like each other too, which is rare to find in this day and age.
But that goes really to what Mr. Norris said. We like each other, I think, because we've learned to respect each other first. And because one of the things any executive or leadership role requires is power listening, right? Really the capacity to ask quality questions and focus deeply on who's answering that question, and look for, I call them hors d'oeuvres, but look for the things you're looking for, or the things that can help you be successful in what you're deciding upon. We get a lot of data thrown at us quickly. In fact, one of the things I did when I was in your shoes was I attended a board meeting. I wanted to see if it was B-O-A-R-D or B-O-R-E-D, right? And when the finance team presents, it requires, unless you're used to it, and yes, I do have a business background, it requires, if you got, you're old enough to remember Saturday Night Live, you remember Find the Pope in the Pizza? Father Sarducci, right? It requires finding the Pope in the pizza. quickly so that you can, if something doesn't look or smell good, that you can ask questions about it and learn. But we've done this together, and we know, as Chris said, where our competencies lie and who to lean on for what. So it is important to have at least a cursory understanding of the things that are noted here. The most complex one for sure is state school finance. And I would use a wonderful adjective we learned from our kids, which is it's wonky. And if any of you can make sense of it, please teach us.
We're all still learning and always learning.
And so that was one of my points I wanted to bring up, right? Is through all this, it's most important to consider oneself a lifelong learner. Because if we do that, then we always become better listeners. Because we know we can get something out of it versus just letting somebody dump. And there are so many times when I was a new board member that I dove into something, and about 4 sentences into the conversation, a little voice in the back of my head said, well, I guess these professionals do actually know what they're doing. And so I've migrated, as Amber will tell you, from how or why aren't we doing this, or how are we doing this, to my preface sentence is always, every time I dive into something, you guys are already 3 steps ahead of me. So here's what I want to know about. What have you already done? And they have, 8 times out of 10. And so my learning fast was, don't burn everybody else's time with my lack of knowledge of what is happening, and ask what they're already doing, and then see if we need to do something. Does that make sense? So all these things, one also inculcates over time. But the most important thing is not the quantity of hours, but the quality of those hours. So attending the board meeting and the working sessions is critical, because that's where the good stuff happens. But being able to seek to understand what you'd like to achieve out of each section in those meetings is where the fun happens, if that makes sense. The government piece of it is significant, as I mentioned earlier, significantly more complex than certainly my background was used to. My background was really about how do you innovate to achieve results and stay out of jail. Well, you have to do it legally and ethically.
Right.
Here you have to do all that and abide by a large set of rules that are likely in place because somebody took advantage of being trusted over the 100x years that there's been public schools. And every time that happens, as you know from all your backgrounds, you have to make a rule for everybody. There's plenty of room to maneuver and work within those areas. You just have to be cognizant of the guardrails on the road. Right? You can still change lanes and speed up and slow down. Okay.
Next.
There was one other thing
Next.
that I brought up that I made notes of on the strategic plan, because I was watching your body languages. Did anybody wonder why we picked those 6 elements? So the answer, thank you for going back. The answer was not to successfully confuse the public. The answer was, these were the major buckets that enable us to have a guiding set of objectives for everything that we were going to do. And actually, the founder of it was Tiffany's predecessor, a guy named Chris Taylor, and he called them the big rocks. And he called them big rocks because they were hard to move, and they required focus to move. And it's really more like the Olympic rings, because you can argue there's lots of intersection. But for us, it was very simple. It was a guiding set of objectives for everything we do, and it really gave us a way to move forward on 3 or 4 simple things we wanted to do, which was maintaining what was good fixing what wasn't, and making sure that we were never complacent or lethargic in our roles. And we use this term from hockey called skating to where the puck is going to be versus chasing it around the rink. And so this gives us an opportunity to make sure that we know current state and desired state that we would like to get to, and what are the milestones that we need to drive the team to and ourselves to get there. That's the value of it, right? And it gives us a foundation to communicate to our customers, who are the public and the students and the employees, on the why, the what, and the how. Hopefully that was logical and made sense and easy to follow. But that's probably, because that strategic plan can be a little daunting, like most of them, but it's actually built to be our guide. Okay?
Is this where we left off?
No, one more. Oh, yeah, last one.
Back one.
Back, there you go.
Want me to handle that one?
If you'd like.
I am more than happy to. A couple times a year, we'll do a retreat, and it usually is a half a day or a whole day somewhere in the region, and we'll just sequester ourselves to work on stuff. And one of the things we recognized in a retreat was trying to figure out what a governing board does. So one of our former superintendents, who's now in another state, I had the good fortune to have dinner with a couple weeks ago, and there was a comment made, I've got 2 board members that are junior superintendents, which means they want to put their fingers in everything and advise on everything. And that's really not our role. We hire a professional to do that. And we hold that professional accountable and their team. But that's not our role. We found out that govern means to steer or drive. And we realized that maybe we should be doing that, right? And that's really what that first bullet is about, right? And the what is exactly what I mentioned before, skating to where the puck's going to be. Okay.
Go back one.
Yeah.
Oh, did I skip ahead?
There.
My goal is never to read a slide. I think you guys can all do that, right? But to talk to the points, right? And so the second point talks about being present, but it's not about being present. It's about having an impact, right? They can do everything that's on the sheets, that's in the data that we receive without us. It's up to us to make something that's workable for our customers with that data, with that decision, with an unfunded mandate that comes down from the state, for example, and those happen, right? And Chris, you worked at State Department for a while, and your wife still does. Unfunded mandates are their very least favorite thing, and they're really good at trying to figure out a way to make them happen anyways, right? We get them too. And Alex, you may have done the same thing, and you guys may have as well. So, but it's an example, right? It's up to us to have an impact versus be a suit that sits at a board table. And the last bullet really talks about making sure that we maintain the value of public education. All of our taxpayers in this community pay into it, then they don't have a choice. So it's up to us to make sure that the value of what their dollars that they're spending is good for the community and the state and the country. And I absolutely categorically volunteered to do this for the same reason Patty did. Because I care deeply about the future of our country, and I feel very fortunate to have been born here. And nobody did anything particular for me to be lucky enough to be born here. So these kids deserve a similar or better shot than I had. And so that's why it's worth it. And if it's okay, I want to leave you with one example of something that I was telling the board members before you came in that happened today. That's the whole reason we have public education. Do I have enough? Can you indulge me?
2 minutes. I'm
You
kidding,
could
go
do
for
it
it.
in one.
I'm kidding. Go.
Go. At Lewis Palmer High School, they had an excellence award ceremony today, this morning. The whole student body was there. It's about 1,200 kids. Filled up both sides of those bleachers in the big gym. And in each of the 4 freshman through senior classes, the teachers nominate kids that are excellent in various areas. There's this one kid that's a senior, and his wrestling coach came up, and he got one of the awards. And this kid is everything that's great about our country. I don't know the exact status of his parents, but English is not his first language. He's the first one to be literate in English in his family. As a freshman, he tried out for the wrestling team and told the coach he couldn't handle it, and I'm paraphrasing. And the coach said, "You got to work hard, and I'll help you." By the end of the conversation, the coach said he learned way more from the kid than the kid ever learned from him. And the kid is an all-state wrestler, and he's got a scholarship to Otero College, which is in La Junta. And he's going to be the first person in his family to have a degree. And he had lots of choices on the way, on this path, that could have led him to very bad places. And he didn't make a wrong one. And that's why we need to have public education, because there's kids like this. And that's what fires us up, right? And nothing is more fulfilling than seeing that. And I could regale you with the financial benefits of not having somebody go into the system, but that's not what it's about, right? It's about the 100 kids this individual will take in his or her wake that are going to follow that same path. Thanks. How am I on time? Did I make it?
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Here's what I love about our board and a unique Board of Education. Each of us have a different perspective and a different voice in what we face and how we govern in our school district. And it's, in the words of my student, my own student, it's so cool. It really is. Know your why. What is your why on why you want to serve? Our why, and the thing to keep in mind always, is every decision, behind every decision we make in every deliberation should be about the kids. And to Mr. Schwartz's point, that was, I cried multiple times, tears of joy at that. And those are the things that really make the job and the work worthwhile. Keep in mind, you still need to be open, and you have to have an open ear and listen to your community. Your community is going to speak to you via electronically, via board comments. It is our job to listen to our community. We are representatives of this and stewards of the tax dollars of our entire community. We serve our students, we serve our staff, we serve our families, our parents, our business owners, our taxpayers. So we serve the entire D38 community. And the D38 community expects you as a board member, when you're making your decisions, to remember what your why is, and that is your students, our students. So, serving on the Board of Education and working with our superintendent, as was mentioned, we have one sole employee, and that is our superintendent. The board creates the policy that is carried out by our superintendent, and we envision the community's future, education future, as I said before. And when we are reflecting and we're assessing the educational needs and values of our students, it also plays into the community. And then we as a team develop an educational philosophy, back to Mr. Schwartz's point, and we establish those district goals, and we work through our budget. And one of our primary jobs as a Board of Education is our budget, and it must be presented, it is presented transparently, and it gets messy to go through and do your due diligence with your homework. It's published on our school district website. I encourage everybody to go look at that. It's also published on the Colorado Department of Education's website, full transparency. And we are about to embark on budget right now because we are required by law to vote on our budget in June. And the state legislature, back to governance point, votes on the long bill and the short bill in our school finance. And so when that comes to us, that's when we get to work and we really dig in. And so when we're going through that budget, we direct our superintendent, or in this case, our interim superintendent, on what are our budgetary priorities. And we get that information from our community feedback. We listen to our accountability and our financial transparency committee, our accountability committee, which we call the PCAC, which stands for Parent Community Advisory Committee. And we wanted to change that because it's usually called District Accountability Committee. We wanted it to be parent and community so that everybody's voice is heard at the table. And that's very important to us, and that's something that we've set up over the last few years in our school district, is how important it is that voices are heard. We also assure...
One ad, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because you brought this up, you made this happen. So Tiffany realized that we should call it an advisory committee, not an accountability or an action committee, because we should be listening better, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we made a lot of big decisions based on that. Keep going. Just wanted to note that's important.
Well, thanks. Well, and advisory in the role of making sure that we are being accountable. So, yeah, thank you. We also advocate, again, on our behalf of our students in our schools, along in tandem with our superintendent. We don't manage our schools. We don't manage our teams. We govern through policy. We use Robert's Rules of Order or parliamentary procedure in our boardroom. And then from that board work, we direct our superintendent on next steps, What we don't do is we do not directly involve ourselves in the daily management of the school district. We don't go into the building and say, hey, principal, I don't like the way that this poster's on the wall. We communicate through our superintendent. We do not influence or conduct the district personnel as they are executing their functions. We include the superintendent. We don't act outside the public forum to influence or alter our board policies, create new policy, or in the enforcement of current policy. One of the things we do, however, is we lean in and listen. We meet with our community when our community reaches out to us and says, hey, I have concerns about X, Y, or Z, or I have a great idea about something that I thought might be helpful. We definitely hear, and I think this board listens, and we hear what our community is saying, and then we talk to our superintendent about how can we make this happen, or why don't we make this happen. And so that's how we do our work. We have sunshine laws, meaning that we cannot make decisions. You can't do a daisy chain where I call Mr. Norris, and then Mr. Norris calls Dr. Shank, and Dr. Shank calls Ron, and then Ron says, hey, here's what we want to say, and here's what we're going to decide to do. We have to be organic, we have to be authentic, we have to be transparent. So all decisions and deliberations are done in the public eye and in the public realm. A board president in some school districts, and something that we started doing, is doing tie-outs, where I, as the board president, might call Mr. Norris and say, hey, what'd you think of the last meeting? Or is there anything you want to put on the agenda? All communication goes through our superintendent, and we communicate with our community through our communications director, but everything happens right here in the boardroom. The other thing we don't do is, there's one other thing. We do communicate, again, with our constituents and our employees and other board members to develop perspectives on issues. And we don't create expectations. When we're talking to a constituent and somebody says, I want X, Y, or Z. I want chicken nuggets served 3 times a day. We can't promise and say, okay, I'll make that happen. We listen, we learn, we understand, we communicate with our superintendent, and we will bring those concerns to the board as a whole at our next meeting. We make sure that we are being mindful of, when we are speaking, I will often say I as one board member, or I as an individual or a person feel X, Y, or Z. Because we still have our values and our convictions and our principles, and don't let go of those. Make sure you're holding on to those. At the same time, I can't say, well, here's how the board feels, because I don't know how the board feels, and I don't speak for the board. The board speaks for itself in the public realm. And we are nonpartisan, and we represent everybody, every taxpayer, the ones that don't vote for you, the ones that do vote for you, the ones that moved here and have no idea what your name is or don't care. They just want to make sure their kids are getting a good education. And that is paramount to being a good board of education director, is making sure that through policy, our students are indeed receiving a top-notch education here in D38. And this is a little, it's on the Colorado Association of School Boards website, and I love this because it really is the cliff notes of what it means to be a board member, of what we do, what we don't do. We're in charge of some very specific roles that we play. We vote on the calendar, we vote on budget, we vote on policy, we vote on the recommendations of faculty, but we do not hire the faculty, and we do not manage the faculty. We work with the superintendent. We ensure that students have access to the high-quality education that they deserve. We are responsible for making sure that our entire school district has vision, organizational structure, accountability, support, community leadership, and advocacy. You'll often find board members out and about in the community. We each serve on community and district committees. For example, Dr. Schenk is currently the board liaison for our Parent Community Advisory Committee. Mr. Norris is our liaison for Monument Academy and for our Gifted Education and Learning, our GELT, Gifted Education Leadership. Thank you. Mr. Schwartz is on our Financial Transparency Committee. I serve on our Special Education Advisory Committee. And then there's also lots of opportunities such as the Chamber of Commerce, Kiwanis, our local churches, our local business and entrepreneurial committees, 100 Women Who Care, for example, our education foundation for D38. There's lots of opportunities and expectations and hopes that whoever serves in my seat and whoever, whether it's Mr. Norris or somebody else, is in Mr. Norris's seat, that we continue to serve our community and listen and lean in our community and our parents, our staff, and our families. So again, this is on the Colorado Association of School Boards website. I can make handouts to those as well. And I would also encourage you, go on to the Colorado Association of School Boards website and just peruse through it. There's lots of interesting lots of interesting resources there. That's helpful, that teaches you how to learn and navigate. What does it mean to partner with other school districts or with our lawmakers? I, for example, serve on the board of directors for CASB right now and serve on the leadership of the Legislative Resolutions Committee. So we put forth resolutions that represent D38. We also network with fellow board members and school districts across the entire state of Colorado, and also go to the Colorado Department of Education website, the CDE website. You'll find a plethora of information there as well. That'll also help you to know a bit more about who we are in D38. Attend a D38 board meeting, attend many of them, speak if you would like. You can watch a lot of information online and events that occur. I would encourage you to do that as well. And the CDE has information on, for example, where is our CMAS scores and where do we rank in NWE scores? And in fact, what does it even mean to have standardized tests? So we also, as a board, we vote and approve curriculum. That's one of our primary jobs as well. I know there's one more that I'm missing because Mr. Schwartz, you covered so much, and so did Dr. Schenk and Mr. Norris. There's some very specific things that Board of Education directors are responsible for doing, and they happen throughout the calendar year. We certify our mill levies every year in December, And we are responsible at the beginning of the year for the evaluation of our superintendent. And something we've started to try to do, and I hope this continues with momentum, is doing a Board of Education self-evaluation system that we'll do at a work session or at a retreat, so that we know, are we on target? Are we doing what we're supposed to do? So, hey, there you go. There's Colorado Association of School Boards. Ms. Wood.
Soon, more information will be posted on the County Elections Department website. That's just another resource to get a bit more information about election timelines, deadlines, and dates. CASB also has that information. And I believe this will be the district webpage that our Director of Communications will be creating soon, and we will begin to post election information there. It's still pretty early in the season, ahead of time for the November election. I'll be receiving some in-depth training in July. The county will connect with the school district in July for us to formally inform them that we do indeed intend to participate in the November election, and then that kicks the ball rolling.
I'd like to offer up, we covered a lot tonight, and if any of you would like to learn more about the topics mentioned, whether it be our state assessment results, our strategic plan goals, the budget, I'm happy to meet with any of you and include our team to just help you learn a little bit about the district.
We have a pretty good team. I am very proud of the team we have in D38. We don't rest on our laurels. That's going to be my departing words, is we never rest on our laurels. We're proud of who we are, but we also want to make sure that we never forget to continue to self-improve. And truly, serving on a school board is where the rubber hits the road in democracy. And serving our community and having that heart to serve, I just, again, want to reiterate, thank you so much for your interest. And thank you so much for stepping forward. It really is a heart to serve. And thank you. We will ask if there's any questions, but first, Mr. Schwartz has a question.
I was going to just ask if we had time for these folks to ask some questions, since they were kind enough to invest their evening.
Like he said, does anybody have any questions?
Chris, Alex, Jackie, James?
Just a small technical question. So for petitions, you need 50 signatures, but they don't have to come from within the director district you're running for. It's 50 signatures throughout D38.
Yes, from any eligible voter within the entire school district.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And Ms. Wood, one question that often gets asked when folks sign the petition, how long do they have to be registered voters to sign in D38?
Just a current voter.
One last point. If you approach somebody and ask them to sign your petition and they signed Tiffany's petition, they get thrown out.
Actually, that will be based on the first petition that is turned into me. I will validate those signatures, and if the same person signed both petitions for candidates for each director district, the first petition that's turned into me will be the signature that counts. Even if that person perhaps signed later than a different petition. It is first come, first serve. You get credit for that first turned in.
And you can sign a petition for each of the director districts. So, but don't sign for me because I'm not running, I'm termed out. So
Don't put out a petition.
to Mr. Norris's point, don't put a petition in for me. No, so if you want to sign a petition for Director District 1 and Director District 3, that you can do. But if you sign 2 candidates for Director District 1, the first candidate that gets that petition turned in is the one that gets that signature counted for them.
Makes sense. If you were to have the case, and I'm not saying that you will or ever had, where you end up with only one candidate for each director district, would you continue with the election anyway?
No, we would, if
You
we
would-
have one candidate for each seat, we can cancel the election.
But if you have two candidates for one director district, you'd have everybody who is a candidate for any district on the ballot?
Yes.
'Cause I
You
think I've
cannot,
seen
you
that.
cannot partially cancel an election.
Gotcha.
So there, you may indeed see something like Director District 1, Tammy Citizen, vote for one.
So we had that
She's
last
the
time.
only choice, yes.
Yeah, we did. Can I just ask a question of the board members? What is the most surprising thing that you learned when you became a board member?
That's an excellent question. Go for it, sir.
The amount of information that is available to get spooled up, to Patty's point, you could spend a year looking at everything and you're still trying to figure it out.
Right.
It's a lot more. It's information overload. I think somebody said it today, put your mouth on a fire hydrant and turn it on full blast and
Right.
enjoy the ride. A lot more than I ever anticipated.
It was a lot. The first 6 months, I really felt that I had to have lots and lots and lots of reading and asking questions time, because I didn't even know what some of the words meant, it was humbling, to put it mildly. The amount you need, and I felt very strongly it wasn't okay for me to be an elected official helping to make decisions on things that I didn't know about. And I expected to know more, and I didn't know more. I consider myself a fairly educated citizen, but this is not something that the average person needs to know that much about. And it was amazing to me. I was really humbled by how little I knew.
Mr. Schwartz.
Not the case now because I've
You
done
know everything now.
everything. In fact, I know everything on earth, but I don't. And I also learned a lot. Another thing I learned about is to review enough, to learn enough, so that I come able to understand everybody else's positions, and what I'm told, and to know what the words mean and what's being done. It was just a lot of work, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. But it was, I was closing down my own small business, and it was like, can you just close yourself? Because I have things to do. This was a big deal, but if you're interested, it's incredibly interesting. Incredibly. More interesting than a lot of the things I've done in my work.
Mr. Schwartz.
There were a couple things that I thought were noteworthy that I was ignorant to. Number one, probably most importantly, is the raw quantity of different things that this enterprise is doing simultaneously. It's quite impressive. There's really only about 800 people. And in any given day, we have about 20 to 25% of the region's population in our structures. So what we do is important, right? And in addition to the quality education, the raw amount of things that Amber and her teams have in play at the same time is a bit impressive. So that was the one thing that was so surprising. And then the other was joyfully surprising was the quantity of advocates that we have in this community for their kids. We really, you remember when the ARRA came out right after the financial crisis and they talked about shovel-ready projects? You guys remember that term? we have shovel-ready learners. The families in this community value education so well that almost every kid that walks in this district's already 3 steps up at a higher platform, so we have something good to work with. And then we take that and take it to a new level. And I wouldn't say that was more necessarily surprising, but it was highly fulfilling, and it's, for lack of a more elegant term, a feature of the community that drives its desirability in the district.
You guys have excellent answers. I can't top that. So I am known to never be able to make up my mind with just one answer. I can always make up my mind. Let me take that back. I apologize. I shouldn't say that. I have multiple answers. Something that was a surprise to me was I thought I understood school finance. And it is a learning curve, understanding and learning school finance. Colorado is unique. It is different than any other state in the entire union. So learning and understanding how tax dollars are balanced between local and state, and even to this day when I'm talking to somebody and other people don't understand how local tax dollars fit into the equation of state tax dollars. And when you're having that dialogue, I'm still not very good at explaining it. I know it, but I can't explain it eloquently. To my next point, giving yourself grace. It's okay not to know it all. And it's okay when you think you know what you know, and you learn that the more you think you know, the more you don't know. So give yourself grace. Balance. Balance yourself with your time on the board and the community and your family and your own self-health, because that is something that it's very easy to find yourself deeply engaged because you deeply care. And this job pays so much. 0. So
In dollars.
the reward is more than I can express. I also am terrible with remembering names. So finding a trick to remember names, that was a learning curve for me. And I was intimidated because our future, our kids are our future. So it was intimidating for me to sit on the dais and make votes that affect our students and thus affect our future. And to Mr. Schwartz's point, thank you, Ron, you said it very eloquently. The students in this school district are motivated to learn, and the parents are engaged and they care. And this community cares deeply about the educational value here in D38. So when you combine all of that, you get a really great school district. But there's also nuances, and so learning those nuances, that's something that's learned for each individual person, and that just comes with learning the job. What is that they say in any job, it takes 6 months to a year to really learn how to do your job. And being on the school board is no different. So just give yourself patience and grace, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And Mr. Norris would joke with me that I say there's no dumb questions, but he'd be like, yeah, there is.
But I've asked them all already.
So that's what I've learned. I've learned how to balance, how to give grace, school finance, and the amount of unfunded mandates that the legislature passes down to us each year. I am a stickler, and I've never given up on this, for local control. And so I will advocate for local control even when I'm not on this board, because that's important to me. So I'll continue to advocate. And my why was this district gave my family something that not all school systems have. And so I ran because I wanted to be able to advocate for our students that can't advocate for themselves, for our students that are on IEPs or 504s or need a little extra help and their parents or their families or those students don't know how to advocate. I wanted to be that advocacy voice. That's still very important to me. I also learned that to Mr. Norris's point, all 5 of us are advocates. And at the end of the day, how we advocate we must work in tandem with our superintendent.
And each other.
Yes. And again, we're very good about disagreeing agreeably. We don't always agree,
We don't.
but we also do so with respect and decorum.
Any other questions?
So what's the biggest challenge that the board is facing right now?
Ooh, good question. Mr. Norris.
Recently, it was homeschool enrichment and transitions and finding homes for them since the decision to move forward on the demolition of Grace Best had come into play. So that was a pretty big challenge.
We took on a lot this year. Not all of our decisions ended up where we hoped they'd be. And when that happens, community's not always that happy with you. One of the things I had to learn, and it wasn't so hard for me because it's kind of natural for me, is that you do the best you can, you learn, and some of your decisions are gonna go sideways. They just are. I remember Tiffany was talking about PCAC meetings with the overall advisory committee to the district, and they said to me, how did you make that decision so poorly? I said, we didn't make it poorly, but it ended up poorly because every decision you and I make, we make without full knowledge. We can't have full knowledge. It's almost impossible. Maybe it's possible. And someone said, but really, and I said, have you ever been divorced? And I got all these people laughing. It's like, seemed like a good decision at the time. You know, somebody I love, somebody I care for, but, you know, I've been through a divorce, so I know. We, you know, did the best we could. And there's a lot of rules about how decisions are made and in what time frame. And you learn from the bad decisions as well as the good ones. And community may or may not give you a whole lot of grace. And you have to be okay. Because if it's going to tear you down every single time, this will not be fun. You know, so I'm not happy about bad decisions, never am. But I always learn from them. So that, you know, that plus we decided as a board that we were going to get a lot done this year. Mm-hmm. You know, having the community less than happy with us over some of them, and you still have to move forward. You still have stuff to do, and the people who work in this district and run this district need us to make decisions and not be paralyzed by what we did yesterday. It's, you know, it's kind of an awesome responsibility, and you learn very quickly that being open and listening and having a good team and working really well with them is really needed, or you just can't get anything done.
Well said. Mr. Schwartz.
So I know it's getting late. I'm going to try to be succinct and direct with your question. We had a mega challenge, so I'm going to go back about 4 or 5 months, in the fall and winter. And we stepped up as a team, and I'm uber proud of the team for doing this and saying, look, This was our error. We own it, we're taking action, and we're fixing it. And we did something very quickly that was very big and impactful, and it was the right thing to do. And that took a lot of fortitude. And the board I stepped on 6 years ago probably couldn't have done it, but this one did. So I give you guys a lot of credit for doing that. It's what we're supposed to do. It's what the community needs from us. I think our biggest challenge is different than what my peers with respect have brought up. And it's the same one that we had 6 years ago, and it continues to propagate in the neighborhood. And it's we perform in roughly the top 6 to 8% of all the districts in the state. And we pay in roughly the 45th percentile. And none of us are advocating to pay in the 90th percentile, but we're advocating to pay around the 50th to the 52nd percentile. And we need to continue to innovate through. We've made significant strides. Every employee in this district makes roughly 25% more than they did 4 or 5 years ago in every job, give or take. And we're still not there. And it's about a $4.5 million a year reoccurring gap. And we're working on it. And we're working on innovating our way through it instead of begging the taxpayers to pay for it. And that in itself is a bit fulfilling.
So I had 3 on my mind, and all 3 of you said it already. So anytime you make big decisions and change, people get twitchy. That's my new word. And the quote I've been drawn to lately is that everybody loves an inspiring beginning and a happy ending. But in the middle of that, it's like taking a puzzle box and putting it out on the floor, and it's pretty messy while you're putting the puzzle pieces back together. So that messy part is a difficult part. When I started on this board, this is something I also learned, back to that other question. I had a different idea of what I envisioned would happen to Grace Best. And through learning and knowledge and understanding and research, we are where we are now, and I understand why we are where we are now. And it was the right decision, but it was a very tough decision to make, and people are emotionally attached to that building. So making sure we're doing the right thing and making sure we're doing it alongside and with our community and not at our community. And to Mr. Schwartz's point, back years ago, I believe it was when Ted Bauman was still the superintendent, there was a vision on that board to make sure that our teacher pay never fell below a specific level. We didn't need to be top. We didn't want to be bottom. And through the many, many, many years, here we are where we are, and we still need to be more competitive with our peers. And how do we get there? And that, again, is what does that look like, and how are we partnering to make sure that that happens? That's a big one. And again, to Dr. Shank's point, you never like to have to deal with personnel issues, but here we are. But I think we bounce back, and you find the light at the end of the tunnel. And I also believe that with any time that there is an opportunity, with these times, there's an opportunity to grow and be better. And I think that we are faced with that right now, where we have an opportunity to grow and be better. And I actually am excited about what lies ahead. We've got a pretty big work session coming up on Tuesday, and a pretty big board meeting with a big decision at the end of May. And so I'm looking forward to those 2 dates. So we have time for one more quick round, like flash round, like dating. And if nobody has any questions, we're good. We get to say that we saved you guys 2 minutes. Keep in mind, some of our board meetings, we try to keep them at about 2 hours, but there will be times throughout the year that some of your board meetings will go longer. I think some of us in this room remember when we've been in board meetings back when I first got on this board, where it would not be a rare occasion to go till 11 o'clock at night. I think one time we went till 1 in the morning.
Some of us are a little old for that now.
So with that, I also strive to make sure that we get out of our board meetings as quick as we can. And so there's always a bet on the table in the back of the room on if I can get us out of there before 8 o'clock at night. And I've done it a couple times.
Very much so.
All right, now I saved you 2 minutes. Thank you so much if there's no more questions. And again, to Ms. Wetstein's point, we are always open for questions, feedback, thoughts. We'll sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. We're that type of board that we don't mind having a cup of coffee. And we try to answer emails as timely as possible. Right now it's a busy time of year, but we've got graduation coming up and lots of exciting things coming up. So I thank you so much, and I hope that we at least inspired you a little bit. So. Or we fried your brains, one or the other.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Vicky, good job.
Since I was a baby board member 8 years ago. What's that? I said, I think I've grown some, grown up a little bit.
No, you did great.
Definitely see that. I've been to a few board meetings.
Oh, Alicia wants to
I think I have a pretty good sense of how big a job it is.
confirm if the executives
How much there is to learn and exactly as I say, how much is more if I know something like civil finance. And somebody asked me something about election, sign the petitions, and I got that wrong. I'm like, you'd think I'd know. That only comes around every
Yeah, I
6 years, so
think this is probably move number
I'm
3.
gonna give myself some grace there.
That's outside of the military, that was in the military. I met my family after the military, so I just move around a lot. Stick and move, I'm a government contractor. So I was born and raised in Florida, and I like the beach, and I like the ocean. That's where we're heading. Yeah, I'm based out of Eglin Air Force Base, so. Yeah, that's right, that's right. Well, thank you, Alex, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.